All right, so we are now officially recording. So first of all, welcome to this webinar. We're going to be talking about stopped contacts. First, just a little bit of housekeeping. Like I said, this is a little bit of new software for me. But one thing I think I can do here is when you guys have a question, if you put it over into the chat box at the end of either at the end of the webinar, or if there's kind of breaks in between the different videos and different topics we're going to talk about, then I'll answer questions. But it's easier if you put them over in the chat box, and I'll kind of try to keep a monitor on them and then answer them kind of when the flow works best to answer them. And I think I can open up a thing. We're going to test it towards the end of the thing, but I think I can open up a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So we might test that out at the end as well. All right, so what we're going to discuss in this webinar is my system, I guess, for how I teach my contact behavior. I'm going to go over how I start it from the very beginning and then all the way through proofing the criteria and what I do in competitions. So this webinar is going to have a lot of my YouTube videos in it, so hopefully they will play for everyone. I think I've got everything set up right so that it should work. We're going to hope for that. So what I want my contact performance to look like, first of all, I want a solid contact performance that my dog fully understands. I personally like 2 on, 2 off, and we'll kind of get into the positioning of the 2 on, 2 off a little bit later. But I personally like it because I feel that it is clear to both me and the dog. And so I like teaching a nice 2 on, 2 off behavior with my dogs. And how I achieve that is I want to teach my dogs to target to a mat. And I teach them to target. I start with a bath mat, and I want my dogs to do a rear foot target onto that bath mat. What I want, let's see if I can get this YouTube video to work. What I would like for my contact performance to look like, and I think I have my volume turned off. There we go, so it shouldn't echo back at you guys. What I want my contacts to look like in this video is Allie. And like I said, hopefully my volume is turned off, but you guys should still be able to hear if you want to hear her barking for some reason. I want fast. I want my dog to know exactly what their behavior is. I want them to fully understand what it is they're doing. I'm going to turn the volume down just a little bit there.
Come on.
So here on the apron, she's up, she's over, and stop. And she is going to release off of that contact when I release her, when I verbal release. Mostly what I'm looking for when I'm looking at my contacts is I want confidence. I want dogs to fully understand their behavior on that ramp. I don't want them to question it. I don't want creep. I don't want them to look unsure. So same here with the dog walk, 2 on, 2 off, and release. So that is the picture that I'm looking for when I am, when I'm teaching my foundations for my contacts. That's my end game. What Allie is doing in that video is what I'm working toward. That's my end game. That's what I want her to do. So I get there by teaching a rear foot target. So a rear foot target means I want my dogs to touch the mat with their rear feet, their 2 rear feet. Why I want this is because dogs tend to already put a lot of focus and a lot of pressure on their front end as it is. They already carry about 70% of their weight up on their front end. I would like to relieve some of that pressure off of their front end, and so I want to teach a nice rear foot target. And to me, teaching a rear foot target, I feel helps them learn to do some of their weight shifting back if they're focused more on their rear end versus focusing on here's where I need to put my front end, and their weight can come down to their front end instead. I want them to focus on, I want my weight here. I want to focus on where my rear feet need to be, which in the dogs that I've worked with this method teaches them to put more focus into the rear end, which in turn gives me, I feel, a better weight shift and gives them a better focus to put the rear end where it needs to go. So how I teach it is we're going to open up a video of cute little Tipper here. How I teach it, and this is not the video I want this one. How I teach it is the mat he's got right here is in the screen here is an aerobics step mat. I got it at Walmart. You can order them off Amazon, whatever, what may have you. I start with the step mat, so if there's a little bit of a ledge they have to kind of step up on. I found Allie, I just went right to a bath mat. She learned off the bath mat really well. Never had any issues with it, but Trip needed something a little bit different. Like, he needed something that it was a different feel for him, that he needed to raise up to get onto that mat. So we went and got this little step mat that was just something for him to kind of step up onto and gave him a clearer picture of what he needs to do. So here in this video is Jimmy working with Trip on just getting his rear feet to touch the mat, and Trip is probably, oh, I don't know, maybe 8 months old in this video. So right now he's rewarding. He's got one rear foot on the mat, and we reward that. He's a good boy for sitting. Right now I'm looking for interaction between dog and mat. So he's throwing a cookie to kind of redirect him. Treating him, and now we're back again. So there, and that's what I'm looking for. And I am asking, we're going to pause this for a second. In the beginning, I do ask for a sit on the mat. Both Trip, I taught them, they touch their mat with their rear feet and they sit on it. Why I want to sit is later down the road, when I start applying this to full-size equipment, I want my dogs to think about a sit when they come down. If my dogs, and this specifically, I'm looking at the A-frame, the dog walk doesn't bother me as much when it comes to weight shifting and balance as far as their rear end, but definitely on the A-frame, I want my dogs to weight shift to the rear end. And I have found with my students' dogs, and then with Trip and Allie, when I taught them that they need to sit on their mat, as they came over the apex of the A-frame, they were preparing their bodies for that sit. And they were thinking about, okay, I need to get on my mat, and I also need to sit, and that got me the weight shift that I was looking for and got them to shift back on their rear and come down the A-frame, as opposed to coming down and jamming their front end down. So here I am teaching Tipper to sit on his mat. And he's getting rewards for that.
To get his front feet
for
up
being super cute. Redirect with a cookie.
We want to focus on his
and we're going to try again.
Being the main priority on getting the pad.
And 2 feet on the mat. Yay! Boy. And this is on the front porch of an old house of ours. And he'd been learning in the living room, and this was kind of a new area. And I wanted to see if he could do it in a new environment.
Yes.
And back on his mat. And that's all I'm asking for, is I just want that sit, right? That's him sitting on the mat. That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to open up this other video. Now this is Tipper outside. New environment. We've got a hoop to a mat, and we were working, this is probably a couple of weeks after that first video we just watched, and this new environment just absolutely threw him, as you can tell. He doesn't quite know what to do with the mat. There's so many smells, there's stuff everywhere, and all Jimmy's waiting for is to get his little butt on the mat and looking for almost any interaction. So we're just trying to get maybe a rear foot, maybe something to get on the mat.
First time in a new
maybe
area.
It hits him right there. And this is all part of the learning process, right? So I wanted Jimmy to reward him for that. Off camera, perhaps telling him he should have rewarded for that, because his butt was touching the mat and we needed to reward for that. So we're just trying again. Jimmy's going to move his position a little bit, try to help him out. And all we're doing is trying to just shape his rear end on the mat, and he's more focused on maybe I should go through the hoop. I'm going to run away. And maybe sit off the mat. So when you get into this, like, this is a good troubleshooting thing, right? So he's kind of like bouncing around on the mat. What needed to happen in this video was Jimmy needed to help him a little bit more with food to get him up on the mat. And right there, that should have been a reward right there for him touching the mat with his rear foot. And even him touching with his front foot, I would have rewarded right then. There, and reward that. Very good. Let's see here. Getting both video and sound. Let me see if I can turn the dang sound off the videos. I did that earlier. My videos are buffering. You should be able to watch them later. And then the recording, you should be able to watch what I'm seeing and be able to watch it. I don't know. this should have loaded right into the software, so it shouldn't have buffered for anybody. So I need to talk to them about that as to why the videos are buffering. Let's try this video. This one I think I downloaded into it.
Yes.
Don't understand. It doesn't want to work. I liked my old software. So this is just Trip again. Let me see if I can turn the sound down again.
Yes, good boy.
This is just Trip again, rewarding him for getting on the mat. He's back on the
Nice, and
porch because obviously out in the grass would not go well. So we're back on the porch to kind of break it down a little bit more, and I'm just looking for his little rear feet to touch the little blue mat.
Yes, good boy.
There.
Good. Okay.
And that's the reward we're looking for. His down I don't care about. I'm looking for, I want him to sit on the mat. Very good. Okay. So let's go back to this. So yeah, when you go to record or when you go to watch the recording, it should show, because it's recording my screen, so it should show exactly what I'm seeing, hopefully. And I will email the webinar people, because that should have all downloaded into this, so that the whole thing with their new software was that there was no buffering, so they lie. So I want to teach my dogs, they put their 2 rear feet on the mat, they sit on the mat. That is my foundation step. Now, here's where things are crucial. And I say this I taught now 2 sessions of contact training class through Fenzi. I've taught multiple seminars on contact training. And it's the part that seems to get skipped a little bit here. Teaching a strong foundation for your contacts is key to a strong contact behavior down the road. So Trip in that video, I would gauge, I'd have to go look at the date on the video, but I'm assuming he's probably about, I think we started him when he was maybe about 8 months old with that putting his rear feet on a mat, okay? He did that. He did his rear foot touches to a mat, no exaggeration, for probably at least 4 months, if not 5. I really drilled it in. I wanted him to be able to put his 2 rear feet on that mat from anywhere. And in this video, oh, sweet mother of God, why is that so big? That was so big there for a minute. I hit the wrong button. Okay. That scared the holy bejesus out of me. Okay, so this is Trip in our house. And I'm going to play the video. Let me turn it once again, see if I can get the volume to go down. And all I'm asking him to do is, we had put the mat on the bottom step of our stairs to continue practicing him going and hitting it and being at a little bit of an angle, all that sort of stuff. And we've taken the mat away and just been teaching him to go hit it on the steps. So this is me sitting way over in a corner, and I'm going to ask him to get it. He's thinking super hard. There he goes. And he goes and he hits it, and I think I release him to what he's looking at, which should be a toy, probably. Yes. And then we're going to ask him to hit it again. So, like, all this stuff right here, this is right before we moved, I can tell, is all this stuff right here, like, what is going to build strong contact performance. And I can tell him hit it, and he is going to go do it. So now there's no video. Let me try to play it again, see if it'll play for you guys. I don't understand quite what's happening. It's very sad. It makes me sad on the inside. Okay, let's try to play the video again. Oh, Joyce can see it. So I'm just going to play it and we'll just talk again. But this stuff here, so the mat was originally on the stairs and I've taken it away. Like, I faded the mat out and he was just learning to just go hit it, meant to go get on the stairs. All I'm doing with this is just the word hit it meant you need to go to where your mat is, right? And I'd faded the mat completely away off the stairs. And he's learning he has to go hit it, up, down, sit, and then he's going to get released to his toy. Let's go back to this one. So I want my dog to do that hit it behavior, that criteria, 110%. We did it with Trip and Allie where we would put the mat out and it was 2 hoops to a mat to a tunnel. So they'd have to do 2 hoops, hit their mat, run, put the rear feet on it, sit, and then I would release to a tunnel. When I teach my contact classes, I ask my students before they're ever allowed to put their dog on a piece of contact equipment, will your dog go hit that mat while I throw a ball for another dog? While I play tug with another dog? While I am running by with a hot dog? I mean, I want them that they hit that mat no matter what. That is key. We rush through our foundation steps, and if you don't have a strong foundation, you will not have a contact later on. Your dog will always revert back to their foundation, and if it's not strong, they're not going to have that to fall back on when things get stressful. When you enter a trial with your dog, excuse me, when you enter a trial with your dog, there are so many factors at play. There's all the ring stress, there's trial stress in general, you as the handler, your stress, and the dog's feed off of that. There's so much stuff happening in a trial environment. I want my dogs to be 100% sure of their skills. So, and we're not getting into all that right now, but when it comes to jumping, I want my dogs to fully understand how to jump, how to go through a hoop, how to weave, how to do contacts, because I want those skills really strong so that when things can sometimes fall apart with stress and all that sort of stuff, they understand those foundation skills. So when it comes to contacts here, I really spend a lot of time teaching this foundation. I spend months, no exaggeration, months just doing a mat on the ground. That's it. Mat on the ground. That's what I want my dogs to do. I want them to fully understand that mat behavior. When I go to apply it to a contact, I do back chaining. So I'm going to put my mat where I want my dog. So if you want all four feet on the board, you put the mat on the board where your dog would be for all 4 feet in the contact zone. I want 2 on 2 off, so I place the mat lower, and I want it down as low as I can on the board, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, in a position where my dog is going to be 2 on 2 off on the board. So 2 on 2 off. The issues that can arise with 2 on 2 off is that if your dog is in a position on 2 on 2 off that creates a V or a dip in their back, that's when that position does not work for the dog. And most of the time when I see that is the dog is too high on the board. Their front feet are right at the bottom of the board. They're just barely touching the ground, but their front feet are right at the bottom of that board, and their back feet are really high. And that's when in the shoulders you get kind of that weird dip in their shoulders, right? I don't want that. Like that video of Allie, she comes all the way down and her back feet touch the very, very, very bottom of the board. So that her front feet are stretched way out and her back feet are just barely touching the board. That's what I want. It gives her a nice flat back. And that's what I want with any contact performance, no matter if you want to do all 4, you want to do 2 on 2 off. My puppy is not happy. Very much not happy right now. You want your dog's form to have a nice flat back. You don't want a dip or a V or anything like that. You want flat. So I want my dogs to be as far down as they can and flat. So where does the sit play into all this? So the sit, I want my dogs to choose what behavior they do at the bottom of the contact so it makes them feel most comfortable. So I give them that they have to have the sit criteria. He can just be loose. Or you're gonna take him outside? Okay. Bye, Wally. I want my dog to be able to choose a contact behavior that works best for them physically and mentally. I do retain the sit criteria for all of the mat work on the ground, and while I'm back chaining. Allie continued, excuse me, Allie continued her sit criteria probably all the way into open, maybe. Trip maintained it all the way into elite. He actually has just quit doing his sit criteria in the last year or so. I loosen the sit criteria as my dogs start competing. They're running more. They start kind of getting a feel for what their body needs to do and what they want from their body. I do start loosening my sit criteria up. So now, like in that video, Allie, good Lord, she stands most of the time. She kind of does a weird like lay down stand sort of thing, depends on how she's doing the contact. But I don't make her sit anymore. Now if she were to come down and let's say she's the dog walk at 100 miles an hour and I can tell there is no brain engaged, she is just hauling, I will ask for that sit criteria. So she'll come down, she gives me 2 on 2 off, and I will hold her for a minute. And she knows when I hold, then I'm going to make her sit. And all I'm doing is just trying to get her brain back to thinking. I'm getting a lot of breakups in the video. I'm hoping the recording won't have the breakups. And again, I'm going to yell at my webinar people because this should not have happened. But I loosen that sit up because I don't want to force my dogs into a position if it doesn't feel good to them. And most dogs kind of know the position that's going to work for them. How I see it is usually around open. They start kind of figuring out their stride, their speed, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and I start lightening up a little bit, and I don't force the sit. But through novice, I want that weight shift, and so I want them to come down and weight shift into the sit, weight shift into the sit. So why do I use a mat, and why rear foot targeting? So the rear foot targeting, like I said, the rear foot targeting is I feel that it really helps teach them a nice balanced weight shift. To put their rear feet on, makes them think about the rear end, makes them think about this is where I need to put my rear end, not so much focus on front end slamming. And I use the mat because most all of my training, I want it to be as close to the real equipment as I can. So what I mean by that is I use a mat because I can put it flush with the contact. It just rides right with the contact. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't raise or lower. I'm not a fan of methods that put something that's raised on the bottom of the contact because that throws off the dog's entire balance, in my opinion. If you're putting something that's raised and your dog is coming down the A-frame and having to step on or jump onto something that's raised, when you go to remove it, you completely change the dog's balance. You've completely changed their posture. You've changed how they do the piece of equipment because they've been doing it for, let's say, 6 weeks with that raised tool or whatever on there, and now you've taken it away. Well, it changes everything. It changes their stride. It changes how they think about it. It changes everything about that piece of equipment, and I don't like that. I want my dogs to just know here's the piece of equipment, here's what it looks like, done. And so that's why I use the mat. When it comes to fading the mat, I also really like it because I just go to Walmart and get one of the cheap like $5 ones. And when I want to start fading the mat off of my contacts, I just start cutting it, right? And so instead of my mat, I already cut it to size to fit my dog walk, so it's a little bit narrow, and bring it down a little bit so it's in that 2 on 2 off position. And so when I bring it down, as I'm starting to fade it, I just start cutting it, make it smaller, 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 until it's gone. I use a mat for that. I don't feel bad if it's a cheapy one from Walmart or something like that, and I can just cut it up, and it doesn't hurt. So that's kind of my foundation steps, and I'm gonna just again really go over criteria. It's a huge thing to really make sure you understand your criteria. I should be able to ask you, what is your contact performance? And you should be able to explain it to me just like that. It shouldn't be, well, he needs to take 3 strides and he stops in the half stride at the bottom of the contact exactly when the moon reaches full, right? It needs to be black and white, because if you can't explain it to me, then it's probably very hard to teach your dog. I'm also a big believer in that when I put my dog on a piece of equipment, it is their job to do it. So when I'm running Allie or Jimmy's running Trip, either one, as they come around to the dog walk, I will say whatever my directional is to get them on the dog walk, here walk, out walk. But I will say here walk as soon as she puts a foot on that ramp. I say hit it. Hit it is their cue for their contact performance at the other end. I never say anything. I expect my dogs. I've put them on that piece of equipment. My job is done. I gave them the directionals to get on that piece of equipment. I'm done. It is now their job to go up, go over, and stop at the bottom. That's their job. Now, if I haven't taught them their job, that's a whole different can of worms, right? But if I feel, I mean, I've taught them their job because I've spent 6 months doing mat work and I've back chained and I have done a bunch of proofing. I am not against proofing. I do a lot of it. Then when I get to a trial and they come running down, I say hit it. I fully expect my dog should be, you know, hitting that ramp, right? Or hitting the contact zone and holding a position on the ramp. With that being said, I will diverge just slightly and say that I would venture to say that it's hard to throw numbers out, but I would venture to say that 90% of agility dogs are not conditioned for agility, and they're not conditioned for the jobs we ask them to do. My passion is natural health and rehab, things like that. And most dogs that I see that miss contacts, that jump and blow, miss weave pulls, knock bars, things like that, a lot of it goes back to conditioning. I've actually dealt with a lot of dogs in seminars that they have extreme weave pull issues, but when we stopped and put them through a whole 6-week conditioning program to actually strengthen their shoulders to weave pull issues disappear. Same with contact. If your dog is not in the right form, in the right conditioned form to be able to come down the A-frame, weight shift, hold that form, come down, hold contact, you're going to have missed contacts because the dog is going to come down. It'd be no different than asking me to run a marathon. Like, things are going to go wrong. And it's not that I maybe don't know how. Maybe you've taught me how. But if I'm not properly conditioned to do track and field, things are going to happen, and it's not going to look pretty. So that can happen with our dogs as well if they're not properly conditioned. So when I get to running my dogs and we're competing and we're trialing and all that sort of good stuff, number one, I maintain my criteria. My dogs will have 2 feet on, 2 feet off, period. They stop 4 on the board. That's no bueno. I am, again, I'm diverging just a little bit, but I am a little lax when it comes to training things. If I have a trial this weekend, if Allie sames a contact, I'm just going to kind of go, okay, that was odd. If she does it consistently all day, the first thing I'm going to go to is it's a physical issue, and I'm going to address any physical issues she may be having. My dogs have to mess up consistently quite a bit for me to go into a training issue. So, you know, the one thing I don't want to do is if she stops above the contact, I'm not going to do this, oh my God, you horrible bad dog, right? You've stopped above the contact, you know, you better get down there, you better hit it. I'm going to assume something's wrong. My first instinct always goes to the dog. So I'm going to assume something has happened. She's got a little bit of ring stress, something has scared her, she doesn't feel good, something's wrong. I'm going to jump to those conclusions before I jump to I need to correct a behavior. Because if something is wrong, let's say she's got a stomach ache, which has happened, and I will say firsthand, she had a really bad time trialing, and it ended up she had like a really bad douse of food poisoning. You know, those kind of things happen. And now if I would have gone home and just drilled the holy heck out of her, I could have created issues. So maintain your criteria, but also make sure you're paying attention to your dog too. Don't just jump into their bad dogs and we need to fix it. Yeah, you have to know your dog and kind of balance back and forth. I'm trying to see if I can get the YouTube videos to upload again, because why not? What I'd really like to show you is this video. Hopefully it will play and not be a pain in my rear. So this video is Trip. He's been back chained over the whole A-frame. He understands his performance. We have back chained him, and we've also completely faded the mat out. So he's just doing just the contact. Let me make sure I got the volume muted. This is in slow motion, so just give it a moment. But what is wrong with this video is that he's way too heavy on his front end. And he's coming down way too hard and way too heavy on his front end, and I'll let this play a couple of times. But as you can see, he's, boom, hitting into his front end, and no bueno. I do not like that. So we're going to play it again. If it'll do it again, maybe. It's thinking so hard. Okay, let's try it again. So yes, this is what I don't like about this, is just his little front end slamming down into the ground. So that is him being way too heavy on the front end. I don't know why you're getting some videos you get and some you don't, Sally. It's got to be my YouTube or something. Maybe they didn't download. I don't know. So here is another video. This is Trip again, and he's much more balanced on the A-frame. I will say after these video clips, he had to maintain his sit criteria a little bit more, but he's much more balanced here, and I'm off camera with a toy, hence why he's looking backwards. But after this, when we watched how heavy he was coming down on his front end, first video, let me play this again. I went back to he had to maintain his sit again. So weird why some videos are showing up and some aren't. Hopefully in the recording you'll be able to see them. You should, because it's just recording my screen. Let's see, I think, and this is Allie. Again, this is her. She has been, so that is all you changed. You made him sit. Yes, so in that video, so he was heavy on his front end. We had been letting him, he was trialing, and we had been letting him choose his contact position, right? And he started getting real heavy because he started getting faster and faster and getting a little crazy with it. And so yeah, in training and in trials again, I went back to the criteria of you must sit. Okay, it's almost a crouch as he comes down. Is that good? Yeah, and that's just the way he kind of runs. I don't remember this video exactly on how Allie does this. Allie is a little bit more upright. I think you'll be able to see in this. And she's going to come down and see she is sliding down, right? Let me replay that. Oh, come on, video. You know you can do it. There we go. Okay. But and see how she kind of does like a lay down, like she's kind of standing but laying down. I'm fine with that as well. As long as she's not, slamming her front end. I think this is Trip on a full A-frame again. I don't think this is slow motion. Oh no, this is me doing backups. So this is just me doing some backups with him. And this is kind of answer to your question, Joyce, is he was getting heavy on his front end. So in training and trials, I made him sit. But also we did some of this. Like I just made him back up onto the board and sit. That's all I want to do is just kind of get up on the board and get back to his sit criteria. So this video was just me getting his sit criteria back again. That he needs to come to the bottom of the board and give me that sit criteria. I'm just reinforcing it. I can't remember all the various videos I loaded on here because this thing is not intuitive. Okay, so so as far as their forms, like Sally's asking about, it's a crouch as he comes down. Yes, I'm fine with a crouch, and I'm actually really fine with Trip's contacts in general. A lot of people, we don't get, I don't know how to word this. A lot of people wouldn't like his contacts because he does slow down a little bit. But in my opinion, and I'm a little different probably with how I trial my dogs, I'm okay with the fact that he comes up, he hits the dog walk nice and fast, he goes across the middle ramp super fast, and then collects himself down to hit his contact. All this tells me is that Trip's going to be running when he's 13, 14 years old because he's not beating himself up. He does the same thing on the A-frame. Now, Allie, the way she puts like 100% into it, she never slows down. I would love for her to slow down. I would love for her to kind of break as she's coming down the down route, break into what Trip does and not collected and come down, but she doesn't. She comes down full bore. Now, if I would not have taught her a rear weight shift or taught her that it's her back feet that matter, I truly believe Allie would retire quite soon because of how hard she is on her body. I think it's better now because she does weight shift as she comes down. She's not slamming her front end, but I don't envision her running as long as Trip because she is just not as good on her body as he is. So Trip may lose a little time, especially when you watch him and Allie run together. Trip's going to lose a little bit of time because he does break down a little bit, and that's something he did. We did not teach it. We did not encourage it. I did not discourage it. I've never tried to speed him up on the down ramp because honestly, I don't care. I would rather that he slow down a little bit and be running when he's old, and be sound versus trying to speed him up. We're talking a half second, and I'm okay with that. And Allie likes to go into it full bore. So when it comes to contacts, I guess my biggest takeaway with contacts is that foundation. We move too fast through contacts, and we don't make things black and white. I want my criteria for my contacts is black and white. 2 feet on the ground, 2 feet on the board, done. That's what I want you to do. I don't want any gray whatsoever. And I also give a benefit back to my dog as well. If I have really taught my foundations, if I've spent the time with my dog, doing the mat work and doing everything, then when something does go wrong in their contact, it alerts me that in how I alert to it is that there's something mentally happening with the dog or physically happening with the dog. I don't jump to they're just being naughty. In all the trials, Allie is 5, Trip is 4. I don't think they've probably ever truly missed a contact, as in not hit yellow. They have missed their criteria. I actually have a hilarious video that Chris videoed of one of Trip's runs. It was a gorgeous. He came over the A-frame, 2 feet on, 2 feet off, and then quick released. And me and Chris were both like, oh my gosh, he blew his contact. And everybody around is like, oh no, he hit it. And we're like, no, he didn't. He blew, because in our head, he did not, meet his criteria. And so, things like that, so he did that. He did that when we were up in Canada, and he blew through his contact. He quick released really fast. So in the next round, we just made sure and held him for a second, and he was fine, never did it again. He had a brain fart. But I also don't jump into, we need to fix it right there. Like, I do not make them go back and put their rear feet on a ramp. I don't say, go back and hit that. It's just they run off, and I'm like, oh, wow, what happened? And in the next round, I'm going to address it as a whole. So that's kind of contacts in a nutshell, as far as how I train them, how I go over them. I'm hoping to run a short 2 or 3 week class on contacts that'll go through the foundation steps for the baby dogs, and then there'll be kind of a second tier that'll go through proofing and form for advanced dogs who are already trialing, that we can work on each end of it, work on the foundation steps, and work on criteria proofing stuff. But my biggest takeaway when it comes to the contacts is be sure of your foundation. Be sure that any question I can throw at you, that I can throw 1,000 tennis balls past you while your dog will go to a mat, that I can run by and wave a hot dog in his face and he's still going to go to a mat. Like, that's when you start going, okay, let's put this to a board. And then even in training, when they're on the board, I will still do that amount of proofing. I'm obviously not going to do what I call stupid proofing, which is like making my dog run down the dog walk while I run that way, swinging a toy. Like, if I have to do that in a trial, I'm just going to scratch. I'm not, there's a lot of weird proofing stuff, and I don't want to do weird proofing. I want to do proofing of things that could happen in a trial. So my dog having to hit a contact, maintain criteria, while another dog is tugging off to the side, that can happen in a trial. While another dog goes running by, that could happen in a trial. Those kind of things. Let's see, Sally, he started with good contacts, but this past year he's gotten faster and more high in competition. He leaps contacts in competition, but not at training. Any suggestions? So how can you ramp up the training at all? And that's a question we get like all the time about contacts, and we both, right? They do it trials, not training, and the difference between trials and training is the adrenaline. So is there any way you can ramp up your training? Is there a friend can come with another dog? Can you run another dog? When I wanted to proof Allie's contacts, I put her in an X-pin while Trip ran. And that got that adrenaline high that we're looking for. You know, I want my dogs to get ramped up in training. If I'm having an adrenaline issue, get ramped up in training to where I can recreate the trial situation. And Sally, you're UK, right? Do you guys have fun matches, fun runs, things like that? Because we have those. They're very few and far between, but we have those here, and you can kind of get in there and get a little bit of that trial environment. Have got Barky Puppy to the side. Yeah, I would try to figure out how to ramp up his training. So I think I'm really sure you're in my fluid motion group. Why don't you? Is there any way you could post a video of his contacts and training, and then post me a video of his contacts, like in a trial competition type thing? Because that would be pretty cool. We can kind of go over it. Because anything you guys like, any questions we have here, anything you guys want to do, if you put it in my training group and tag me, then I can see it and I can comment on it, and that would be awesome. Because to me, if your dog's having a training trialing thing, towards it's an adrenaline thing. You know, it's an adrenaline. He gets amped, and so I can aim to get videos. That would be awesome, because then we can see it and kind of take a look, and maybe I can give you some better input. I lost the sound and can't get to come back. We'll have access to the recording. Yes, hopefully you can hear me. Yes, you'll have access. I'm going to type that. I will. Hang on, I can't like talk and type at the same time. It's a problem. I've been trying to get my 2 on 2 off, and I'm getting there. But my dog puts his front feet to the side. How do I fix that? That can be very hard. So what I've done, Allie wants to do that. So what I'm working on with her right now is number one, she needs to go straight, and I build value for the obstacle in front of her. A really good way to do that, and even though we don't want to create tunnel suckers, but a really good way to do that is if you have a 10-foot tunnel, that's fine, a 15-foot tunnel. And with Allie, I had the ramp, and then I stuck a tunnel like 10 feet off the end of the ramp. So she come down, she's looking at the tunnel. As soon as she stops and she's still looking forward, want to reinforce that, I would say go and release her. You know, and we're keeping that straight look, and then you just move the tunnel further and further and further and further away from the ramp. Then you can put a hoop in between the tunnels. So now it's, your dog walk hoop tunnel, but you're getting your dog to give you that forward focus. You can also throw a gate at the end. That's worked. Throw a gate if your ramp is here, you can put a gate alongside where they're turning off so that they have to stay straight. I'm not a huge fan of that because I'm not a huge fan of props. Because anything you bring in, you have to take out if it's not, equipment. So when you start bringing in a gate to keep them straight, then at some point you have to fade it. So I've done the tunnel thing, and I really like that, where I'm able to get them to go straight, and I just keep adding obstacles, basically. I think I had a question before this. When you start doing distance, do you have an issue keeping them straight at the end of the contacts, Andrea? Yes, because most of the time we're to the side or behind, right? And they want to come off. So I did do that with Allie, with the whole tunnel thing of keeping her looking straight, basically targeting, out to a tunnel, and keeping her to go straight. I also kind of just do it. And this is not the greatest answer. And so, I sometimes I can band-aid it with an out. We don't want to do that, but if they come off the ramp and they're looking at me, I can say out to straighten their head and get them straight back again. But for Allie and Trip both, Trip has amazing obstacle focus, but Jimmy also spent, again, probably at least 2 months teaching him to look ahead. And he shaped a lot of stuff. You'll watch him at the start line. He'll put him in the start line and lead out, and Trip will look at Jimmy, but then turn and focus forward. He built a lot of value for the hoops and jumps that you need to focus forward on them. So a lot of the dog walk issues, as far as dogs turning off, can be fixed with nice hardcore obstacle commitment. And I do a lot of weird stuff when I do obstacle commitment, and the fact that I can't load the video right now, but I will send my dog to a hoop while I run the other way. So once I've given the clear cue, go hoop, that's where you need to go, I will take off, go the other way, my dog gives me a hoop wrap or whatever, but it teaches them that even though I'm going this way, I've given you the clear cue, I want you to go that way, to help build up on that commitment. Do we have any other questions? When I send out, so with the recording, it should be a YouTube link that hopefully everybody, because it's recording my screen, hopefully everybody will be able to see the dang videos and be able to get all of that. So, yeah, and then the recording will go out. Let's see here. I shouldn't need to send you, if for some reason something didn't work right, I will send everybody the individual links to those YouTube videos as well. If you are in my fluid motion training group, if you're not, please be sure to join. If you are, give me a couple of days because I'm getting ready to do another, for those that were, I think it was a couple months for those that joined in, we did I think it was a week-long, a week-long free workshop on handling and timing. I'm going to do another one of those, and it's going to revolve around contacts and things like that. So be sure to watch that. It probably is not going to happen for a little while, as I got a trial this weekend. So look for it probably next week. I can't find the puppy link on your site. Oh, I will. I'll put it back on my Facebook, so you can find it. How do we join the training group? I'll send everybody. Let's see. You're friends with me on Facebook, right, Joyce? I'll put a link to the training group on my Facebook page, and it's free to join. It's just a open Facebook group. I'll put a link to that, and I'll also put a link to the puppy group is there as well. So I'll put a link to that. Awesome, and be sure to post videos, like any videos you guys want to do. Be sure to put them in the fluid motion. And if you tag me, sometimes I miss things with all the Facebook stuff. So be sure to put everything in there. If you guys we don't have any more questions, then I will stop the recording. And like I said, the recording will probably go out maybe tomorrow morning. It just depends on how fast I can download and then re-upload. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and stop the recording.